Hi everyone. So our lesson today, I thought we'll do something a little bit different. So it's a sphere, which I know we kind of have done before, but I want to show you how to sort of think about the texture of what we draw, and what we need to do with light and shadow. So I thought if we do a glass ball, that kind of covers a few different areas. So if we just had, if I draw very lightly up here, if we just had a round ball, whoa, that's not round at all. We have a round ball like this, imagine, and the light is coming from this corner. We're going to have it mostly light over here, and then the darkest part is going to be on this side of it, right? So if we shade all of that in very lightly, this part is going to be the darkest, and then we might have a shadow on the ground behind it, right? But if it's something that's transparent, so we see straight through it, as in like a water droplet or a glass, the light's going to act slightly differently. So even if we have the light coming from the same direction, we have our circle here. What we will find instead is we might have a highlighted area up here where the light hits, but this will actually be the darker part. The light will go through there, and then we will have a second highlight at the bottom where the light exits. We'll still have a shadow on the ground here, but we are likely to also have a reflection of the light in that shadow as well. So this area here would be in shadow just very slightly, but the main shadow would be up here, and then we would have our highlighted area right at the bottom. So that's what we need to do with this glass ball that we're doing today. So in the Word file that I've attached, you'll see there's step-by-step directions that show you how I started with this circle here and ended up with, can you see that in there? If I just move that slightly, how I ended up with this one here. So I'm not going to go through all the steps now, but I'll just do a bit of a demonstration and just tell you a few things as we go along. So as in that picture, just let me pull this right out again. The first thing that we want to do is just mark in those main areas of highlight. Now I'm using an HB pencil here, just so you can see, HB, which is just your main regular pencil, which I'm sure you all know. If you happen to have a big set of pencils, as I do here, that will make your life a little easier with this, but it's certainly not essential. Okay, so I'm starting off with this and just very, very lightly marking those in. There will also be an area of light on the opposite side of the glass ball. So I'm just going to mark that in lightly now as well. Okay, so they're our main areas that we want to keep the graphite out of. But then the next step really is to lightly put some some graphite on the entire thing. Doesn't really matter how you do this. I tend to work in kind of rounded strokes or curved strokes with anything that I'm drawing that is that shape. But as long as you're not pressing very hard, it really doesn't matter how you do this bit. Now the paper I've got here, you might be able to tell when you look at the Word file, my paper is not ideal for this. It's actually a fairly heavy grade, so I've got lots of texture on it. What would work better is a slightly smoother paper for something where you're trying to get a smooth finish. So I think in that regard, your drawings are going to have a nicer finish to them than mine. Imagine if you were trying to draw something really smooth, like on watercolor paper, for example. You'd end up with a really rough kind of surface. Could still look okay, but it's just not going to be quite as realistic as if you have a smoother paper. Right, so this has taken me a while. If you've got a really nicely sharpened pencil, you might even be able to tilt it on its side and put a whole lot of graphite down like that. You really don't need too much down at this stage. I just lightly pop that down now. Okay, and then I'm going to grab a tissue that I've got right next to me here. Just pull that out and just fold that over into little square there. And because I've done this quite lightly, I should be able to get a really nice, smooth, blended graphite surface now on the ball. It's very light, so it might actually be hard for you to see. You can probably see it a little bit better up here. So if I just go over that area a little bit, you can see how you go. Now my finished drawing, I've actually done it quite dark. You don't have to go as dark as I've done, but I wanted it to be really clear to you guys when I'm sending you photos. What should be really dark is the area between the bottom of the ball and the shadow on the surface that it's sitting on. So do make sure you go really dark there. So just try blending this now, see if that's a little darker. Something like that. There we go. Right. And I would go a little bit darker around this area as well. I'm not going to do that now though. Now, because I've got a little bit of graphite inside those, the very edges of those highlights, I'm just going to use my pencil now very lightly and go around and outline them again. And then what you need to do is use either a fine eraser. I've got one here to show you. I think I do. Oops. Yep. So I've got one like this. It's like a mechanical pencil. It's got a very fine tip on it. And that's really, really good for just pulling out fine areas of graphite to get a highlight. So see how nicely that worked. If you don't have that, the other two options are to get just a regular eraser like this, and I rip off the end here, so I've got a sharp edge, and those sharp edges, if you see here, I'm going to put a little highlight in the middle here. I can use that to get some nice highlights there, or if worse comes to worse and you don't have an eraser like that, just get your fingernail in the corner and pull a section off, and you'll get just a tiny bit like that, and that will work also just as well to pull out those fine little areas. Okay, right, now if you happen to have a set of pencils like I was showing you before, I would at this point move up to something like probably a 4B pencil. Now remember that if you go up higher with the number of a B pencil, you're going to have a darker line go down on the paper here. So if I now use this one, for example, I'm using the same pressure that I did with the HB pencil, and you can see how much darker it goes. So I would use that now to put in a darker shadow right around these highlighted areas here, including around this side of them, and also just above this highlight at the bottom here. So that whole area there, you're going to want to go a lot darker. Same with the top here actually, go around to about there. Don't go the whole way around, otherwise you lose that effect of the light coming in from one side only. But you want to make this area around here quite a lot darker. So you just lay that down. Now if you don't have this pencil, don't worry, you just go back over it again, over that area with your HB pencil. Press a little bit harder, but not so hard that you're leaving dents in your paper. And then go through the blending process again. So now I'm going to use that tissue again if I can find it. Yep, there we go. And same thing, then just blend that out, and you'll start to have more of a rounded effect again. See, so now that's starting to get some volume to it. Again, I'll just pull out those highlighted areas and around the bottom here. So keep working on that, keep increasing the shadowed areas. You might end up needing just a little bit extra in the middle here as well, because there's going to be you'll see on the subject photo, there is also a nice highlight through the middle here. It's not quite as bright as this though. In the end, you'll want to get up to at least that level of darkness all the way around there and down here. Now the thing that will make the highlight at the bottom of the glass ball stand out is the shadow on the surface itself. So if I now draw that in very lightly, I'm actually going to leave the end of this fairly open, because remember, a shadow, unless it's of a really strong, crisp, sharp edge, should be actually quite fuzzy at the end. What is going to be really dark though is this part around here. It's this dark shadow that will make the highlight at the bottom of the ball stand out. That and some blending on this side. So we're going to put that in. Same thing, just put some graphite down loosely on the shadowed area. You can be fairly rough with this. What we do want though is this shadow to be darker here, close to the ball, and lighter as it moves away. So we'll do that the whole way across. I'm just going to do it I'm only going to do half of it here, just so you can get on with doing it and don't have to listen to me dribbling on. And then same thing, let's just blend that. Now with a nice soft B pencil, it's really, really easy to blend. So you'll get a nice soft effect really easily. Okay, and then make that go softer and softer as it goes away. Then you can see the ball starting to stand up and lift off the page. So that's basically how to do it. Follow along with the Word document that I sent. Go slowly, don't go too dark too soon, but also equally don't be scared to go this dark when you get into those main shadow areas. Otherwise the ball will work, but it just won't look as round, and you won't have as realistic an effect of it being glass and the light going through it. So give it a go. Please, please, please send me some photos of what you've done, because I would love to see them, and I'll give you some feedback on it, some suggestions if there's anything that I think you really need to change. And then we'll be in touch next week. But enjoy it, have fun with it, and I hope all your virtual learning's going well too. Miss seeing you all, but I'm sure we'll catch up again once this is all over. In the meantime, I'll see you here next week. Okay, bye.